Triple Crown winner, a Breeders' Cup winner, a horse of a lifetime!
Hello and welcome to Tournament Talk on the Tournament Edge for Friday, December 18th. I'm Bobby Shoemaker, and that's Barry the Sniper Spears. 4 races, Gulfstream Park for Saturday, December 19th. And Barry, let's get right to it. We'll go to race 7 on the card. That's where we will begin a 6-furlong dirt event, a $41,000 allowance optional claimer. As of right now, it's a field of 11. Give us your analysis.
Yeah, this race is real interesting to me, top to bottom, because there are a lot of question marks in this race. A lot of horses kind of, trying to get on the right track here. Some off of layoffs, some, just didn't go the right way, off the claim. A lot of horses off the claim. So it should be a really interesting race all the way around. I'm going to start off with talking about number 7, who is Gold Canyon, who is a Chilean-bred horse in the Todd Pletcher barn, who, to me, is a complete unknown. Have no clue what this horse is going to bring to the table. Has a maiden win back in July of 2014, and that's pretty much about it. I mean, they have this horse at 4-1 on the morning line. I sincerely hope this horse is somewhere shorter than that, but 4-1 to me is very short on a horse like this, unless somebody knows something that they haven't told me yet.
Well, Barry, why is he 4-1? We know why he's 4-1.
Oh, we know why he's 4-1. He's Todd Pletcher,
yeah.
With top rider also Javier Castellano. But it's just, to me, even the comment that he got in that maiden race, it said perfect trip. That's concerning. He has been gelded since his last start, so. I just can't take a horse like that at short odds.
No, sir.
The next horse I'd like to talk about is the 10 Loud Cat, coming in for Michael Maker and Joel Rosario. This horse looks like he's got a lot of speed from the outside, which is a good thing. The barn has spectacular numbers off the claim and off of 60-day layoffs or shorter. And I just think that this horse kind of looks the part, but it just doesn't feel right. It seems too obvious in this spot for me. I think this horse is probably going to be somewhere around 9-5, 8-5-ish, which is most of the time a play against for me. Plus, he has no workouts at the track at Gulfstream, which, it can be a finicky kind of surface.
Right.
So, with that said, I'm going to go to my pick, who is incidentally the 1 horse, El Botas. Now, I've seen this horse run a lot. And a lot lately on the grass. He's second off the layoff since since September 19th, where he ran good. He came off the layoff to run in the Claiming Crown on December 5th. Didn't really do much, and even finished nothing really to write home about. Now, this horse does have some dirt races to go back to, way back in his form. He's got 4 wins on a dirt track, fast dirt track, so hopefully there's no rain, which I don't think we'll get. But this horse's races are very, very competitive. He can stalk, he can be on the lead. I think this horse is the horse to beat, especially at that 8-1 price. I'm going to take a shot right there.
A lot of people seem to like your 1 from what I'm hearing, Barry, so you may be on the right horse. Back to the 7 quickly, and as I mentioned a little bit to you, if Todd Pletcher's not training this horse is nowhere near 4-1. I mean, I don't care who else will be training this horse, but Todd Pletcher's the trainer. He's basically the Alabama of Gulfstream Park, and he's 4-1 because of that. I mean, there's no other reason.
I would compare more to like the Patriots, but that's just me.
I'm ignoring that. So 469 days off the layoff, and this horse is 4-1. No thanks. I couldn't agree with you more there. The 10, didn't like him as much as you, but I think he'll take a lot of money. And I certainly took a long, hard look at your one horse and almost made the one my top selection. But I don't know how you felt about the pace, but I thought it was a lot of horses that wanted to lead, a lot of horses that are going to be on the front end, a lot of horses going to be wide because of it. And I didn't see a lot of talent, Barry, that told me that they could run the fractions that I think that they're going to run and still be able to win the race. Now, before I continue, the thing that does scare me is I've been watching these races all week at Gulfstream Park, and now that we're fast and firm, and this looks like it's turning back into the racetrack we saw in 2014, where if you got on the lead, no matter the caliber of horse you were, no matter what type of race you were running in, whether it was a $16,000 claimer or a non-graded stakes race, if you were forwardly placed or on the lead, you were going to win the race. Now, I hope that's not the case, but I'm afraid that is going to be the case. But I'm going to still read the form as it is up to this point. And, Barry, I landed on the 2 horse. I'm stepping it up at 10-1 morning line. Now, this horse is third off the claim, has been running in 2-turn races and showing a ton of early speed, a lot of early speed, Barry, and almost won his first race at $80,000 at Parks. He comes down to Gulfstream Park, pressed a very hot pace, and then quit, folded, beat 16 lengths. Now the connections, which are doing very well this year, by the way, are moving this horse back to 6.5 furlongs, and I think it just might be the right fit for the horse. I think, as I mentioned, there's going to be a ton of horses that want the lead. I think the 2 is going to make one run. And I'm pairing up with Corey Lanerie again. And if there is a strong suit, Barry, to Corey's game, in my opinion, it is saving as much ground as he can, looking at the pace in front of him, and making one run. As long as I've been following this, Barry, it seems like that's his strong suit. And these connections seem to be very consistent, very good, especially at this racetrack. So I'm banking on the track not favoring the speed that I'm fearing it is. All these horses in front of the 2 quit. Corey Lanerie saves ground, as we've seen him do at this meet, makes one run, and I'm stepping it up, pays a price.
Yeah, I actually took a long look at that horse as well. There was 2 things that got me off of the horse. First, he took 8 slices at Gulfstream Park and hasn't won yet, in only 1 second. That could bode, a little bit ominous in a spot like this where, a lot of these horses, even the 1, has some wins over the track. And the second thing that kind of turned me off a little bit is that the horse was entered or is entered for Friday. And it'll be a real good sign too if they don't run on Friday and opt for this spot. Right. So that's actually might end up being a positive more than it is a negative. Sure. But if the horse runs on Friday, obviously, that's they wanted an easier spot. Right. But if he runs on Saturday just like he is in this form and in the past performances, he's definitely going to be tough because of the cutback, which I do like. And that's really what attracted me to this horse is the cutback. Whether he gets it done or not, we'll have to see. But, it's definitely a lot to like there.
Yeah, I think with the cutback, Barry, and these connections, as I've mentioned, and this being Corey's strong suit, I think he's a major player, and I do believe he's going to be overlooked from a betting standpoint because of the last race when he got beat by 16 lengths. I just think people are going to be afraid to take a chance, and I really look for this horse to be an overlay if they keep this horse running on Saturday. So as Barry mentioned, this horse is scheduled to run today. If he does not run, then Barry and I are on the same horse, the 1, Elbow Ties. All right. So we're going to move on to race 9 on the card. It is a 1 mile and 16th turf event, the Tropical Park Derby for 3-year-olds. Barry, it's a $75,000 purse. How do you see this one playing out?
This race is not as interesting as the last race.
No.
The way I handicap this race, it looks like a Captain Obvious special. And I'll start with number 11, A Lot. This horse has a huge class edge over a lot of these horses in this race. He's out of the Mott barn, who's starting to heat up quite profusely here over the last couple of weeks. I mean, especially his layoff horses like this one is. The horse has been out since October 25th was his last start. Didn't run that bad in a $100,000 stake race. Got beat by Offering Clan, who's a tough horse. But if you look through his past performances, and you go down to May 2nd when he ran in the American Turf, a Grade 2, and got beat by Divisadero, who's an exceptional horse on the grass. I definitely want to see him come back. But he definitely gave him all he can handle that day. And that horse in this spot would be probably about 3 to 5. So anything close to that, this horse is going to win this race. I personally went to his outside, to the 12-horse Team Colors, who's definitely going to be a co-choice. They might even be very similar, 3 to 1 each when it's all said and done. But this is a horse on the rise. He can run all day. That may be probably the only negative, is that he may want to go longer. But the last race he was in was October 25th at a mile in the English Channel at Belmont,
right.
1-turn mile. And he ran great. Actually finished ahead of a lot that day. Gets a favorable, weight break today in a lot lighter.
Right.
And I think he gets it done.
Well, I wouldn't be surprised in the least, Barry, if the 11 or the 12 horse win the race. I understand that they're going to be short prices. I understand that they are the class of the field, and their numbers certainly are as competitive, if not better, than anything in this race. But something that I have noticed about the turf course as well as it's starting to firm up is that you should be close to the lead. And a lot of these horses from the outside, despite their class, despite their speed, are compromised from the post. Now, I've seen it done, but it's taken some really good rides and a lot of things to break their way. And I read this race as the 11 and 12, who both are the horses to beat, but they're going to be coming from way off of it. And I don't know how fast his pace is going to be. So I actually landed, and very confidently, may I add, on the 4-horse Solemn Tribute. This horse has been very good this entire year, Barry. July 26th, it's 6.5 furlongs up north at Woodbine. He breaks his maiden as his numbers increased as the race went on, and he did it in style. Then he comes right back facing $58,000 allowance company, and you know as well as I do, it's very difficult at times for horses to beat winners for the first time coming off their maiden score. He looked even better in that race than he did in his maiden score. And then they finally put this horse in a 2-turn event, which is really what I think this horse has wanted to do all along. He goes 4 wide, definitely was the best horse in the race, was the fastest horse in the race. Thoroughgraph even states that. And took the lead down the stretch and relinquished it late, lost by a head because of the 4 wide trip. If this horse is one path inside, he wins the race. Last race at Gulfstream Park West, going a mile, he was pulled. He went 3 wide. He then regrouped and was driving and gaining on the leader again, which is in this race, the 9-horse, What's Your Own Bottler. So we know this horse can get this distance. He's proven that with the right trip, he can get this distance. And look at the jockey upgrade here, Barry. No offense to Hernandez and Moran. Julien Leparoux is better than both of those jockeys. He's certainly better on the turf than both of those jockeys. And ever since he left Saratoga, he has found himself again. The 4 is going to be forwardly placed. He'll be, I'm thinking, 3rd or 4th. I'm hoping Julien can get him to the rail. When the rail opens up as they turn for home, he gets first run on the 11 and 12. And I'm hoping that he can hold him off late. And he's 8 to 1 right now. If he's that or higher, I'm going to bet him at the window. I like the 4 a lot, Solemn Tribute.
It's not a bad choice. I mean, I think you're going to get every bit of that at 8 to 1, if not more, closer to 12, 13, 14 to 1.
That's what I like to hear.
Based on the fact that, Watcher on Barber beat him last time, he's quickly rising up through the ranks. And sometimes they hit a wall when they get into this kind of competition, but he's definitely worth a shot. Brian Lynch has always got his horses fit and ready, so you can't go wrong there. So it's just how he performs on the track on Saturday. So it should be a good one.
I agree with you. I think it's the most competitive race. All right, let me rephrase that. it's the most talented race of the 4 races that we've read. I mean, it's a lot of horses that I think are going to have very good 2016 campaigns on the line in America. So we're going to move on to race 10 on the Gulfstream Park card for Saturday, December 19th. It's a 1-mile dirt event, a $43,000 optional claimer for 3-year-olds and up. And according to the morning line, Barry, Tennessee is your horse to beat.
Yeah, this race here is, an optional claimer in name only. A lot of these horses are lower level stakes types. So this race is going to be just as competitive as the one we just reviewed, but on the dirt, obviously. But I think this is going to be a nice little race to watch. Now, you mentioned Tennessee, who is a consistent type, out of the Pletcher barn again. Top rider, top trainer. These guys are undisputed down there in South Florida. But, I just don't seem to think that this horse is fast enough to win this kind of race. His numbers aren't spectacular. They don't jump off the page. He hasn't, he's very consistent. He's running in the mid to high 80s every time. And I think that that's not good enough in this spot, especially off the layoff. Although Pletcher excels with these kind of moves, I just don't see this horse winning, especially at a short price. Right to that horse is outside, Ladoco is very interesting to me. I had a hard time not picking this horse as my pick. This horse has some back class going all the way back to last May, and this horse has been running against some great company. Now, the reason I just didn't feel that he was going to get over the top is he's just a little bit inconsistent. He's coming in off the layoff as well, or second off the layoff. He ran on Claiming Crown Day and didn't run a step.
Right.
Should improve second off that run. However, it just doesn't feel right with this horse coming off of that trip, kind of stepping down in class and then, getting into this race where he doesn't really know. I mean, at least from his lines, doesn't look like he really knows what he wants to do. Whether he wants to go to the lead or take back, the horse is a little inconsistent in that way, so I opted to go elsewhere. And I ended up on the 11, City of Weston, who absolutely loves Gulfstream Park. He's 4 for 15 lifetime, 10 for 15 in the money at the track, which is pretty stellar. Definitely needed the class relief for this race on Saturday. Coming back off of a mile and 16th run at Gulfstream Park West, which was a tougher race than it actually looked like on paper. I think the one-turn mile suits this horse pretty well, although he's only run it one time. I think he's the class relief, the stalking trip that he's going to get because he has enough speed to be close enough to the lead to where he can pounce and just finish him. So that's my pick for this race here.
I thought you read the race perfectly, Barry, from a pace perspective. And I do think your 11 is a major player, and he was one of my finalists. I think the 5 horse is the horse to beat. I didn't go there. I think the 5 is going to be well back early. And unlike the race that we initially discussed, where I did take a horse from going off the pace, I took a horse coming from off the pace because I don't think the horses in front of him are good enough to carry the speed. But I think that there's going to be horses in front of the 5 today, or Saturday rather, that are going to be very tough to pass. And the 11 horse is certainly one of those. Back to Tennessee really quickly. Do you think this is just a desperate move by Todd Pletcher to get this horse back on dirt? Because although the numbers are higher from how I read them on the turf than they are the dirt, he still wasn't good enough to win enough races or to look good enough for Pletcher to keep him there. I mean, if Pletcher had a lot of we're talking about Todd Pletcher here. If he had a lot of confidence in this horse, he would have made a decision early on what surface this horse was best at. He's flip-flopping, and I've followed Pletcher a long time and used to be a fan until he copped out of the Breeders' Cup Classic with Liam's Map. And I know when he's confident in a horse, he'll stick to the surface. He's switching back and forth to this horse. He just looks so vulnerable, and I think this is a desperate move.
Yeah, it does have that air, or the scent of desperation. But class-wise, I think this horse would fit, but just not in this particular race. You're getting some really hard-knocking horses here that I don't think this horse is able to compete with. And maybe he just wants to get one race into him and pop the second time out, not this first time. And it could be, we're bettors just like everybody else. So, it's hard to get into the mind of a trainer to know exactly what they're going to do without asking them. Now, with that said, I do think that this isn't the race for Tennessee. I think there's bigger and better things down the road, especially at a 6-furlong type race. I just don't think it's going to be on Saturday either.
I don't care where they put this horse, Barry. I don't think he's good enough, period. I just don't think he's good. I don't think he's good enough. So I hope he's bet to death and we get prices on our horses. As I mentioned, there's other horses in front of the horse to beat that are very fast. So I ended up landing on the 7 horse, Face of Winter, 12-1. He's third off of his vet scratch, which is certainly can be eye-opening. You've got to see if this horse can bounce back from being a vet scratch. But he run a very good race, deceivingly good race, Barry, in the mud on September 13th at Belmont Park. And maybe you're thinking, well, maybe he just liked the mud and freaked out. Then he did a lot of heavy lifting at an $80,000 allowance race at Belmont, Barry, on October 9th. And you know as well as I do, $80,000 allowance races at Belmont are salty. What I'm telling you is this. This horse has a ton of early speed, and if you go back to his races in the spring at Gulfstream Park from a numbers perspective, at least from Timeform US, he fits here. As I mentioned, I think the 5, again, is the best horse, but they're going to have to come get the 7. When they turn for home, Barry, the 7 is going to be on the lead. And it's not like the 7 is a dog. I mean, Johnny V got on him at Belmont Park, and he went off at 8-1. The bettors saw something they liked, and Johnny V got on this horse twice. I think he's very fast. I think he'll be on the lead, and I think he's going to force something to come get him. Now, if this racetrack is favoring speed, he's good enough to carry the speed a long way, and I'll take my chances at 12-1. Is this a horse I'm going to go up to the window and bet? No. Is this a horse I'm going to play in a tournament and hope that it gets me over the top? Absolutely. Catch me if you can. 7 horse, Face of Winter.
Yeah, I took a look at this one too because of the speed, but I just found it odd. The rider choice, considering the colony that's down in South Florida right now, it was just kind of odd. Maybe he'll get a jockey change or something by the time the race goes off. But nothing against Mr. Oliveira, but just looking at where this horse has been running during the off Gulfstream Park meets. In the spring and the fall, he had a tough time breaking his maiden. And then once he did, he actually jumped up and ran pretty good. So he could be rounding back into form, which is probably the best time to do it in a race like this where he could definitely surprise, outrun or outsprint some of these horses and just keep going.
Yeah, and be the beneficiary of, maybe a racetrack again that just won't let you pass.
Yeah, it's been like that the last couple of days. So, if that keeps going, then he's definitely going to be a contender and probably going to be well over 12-1. I'm thinking this horse might be 20-25-1.
Would this be a horse that? It sounds like this would be a horse that you would use underneath in your exotics because you're an exotics player.
Absolutely, to hang on and be right there at the finish with hopefully by himself. If he's on the front end, it's going to be hard to beat him if he can outbreak people.
And that's what I'm gambling on, Barry. And I'm glad that you said that. I think this horse can get to the lead early. If he can get to the lead early and establish himself after the quarter mile, I'm going to feel pretty good.
Yep.
So we're going to move on to the last race on the Tournament Talk show for December 18th. It's race 11 on the card. It's a mile and 16th on the turf. It's the $75,000 Tropical Parks Oaks, and this time it's for 3-year-old fillies. Another full field, Barry, another competitive field. Who's your winner and why?
Well, I'll get to my winner, but I'd like to talk about this horse, the 3-horse Osceola, which is yet another Todd Pletcher horse with Javier Castellano up that looks the part. I mean, this horse is a Group 3 winner in the UK, top trainer and rider combo, as we just mentioned. and he's off a decent layoff here. I actually liked the horse the last time he ran at Belmont in September, and just didn't run a step. I mean, as far as I was concerned, he didn't run a step. He didn't run that bad. He was in top class. I mean, Sentiero Italia is one of the best horses out on the grass, in the female turf division. But, I just can't see this horse winning. I mean, God love the horse if he's able to win and beat me at a short price, but there's no way I can play a horse like this.
Barry, I want to stop you because you're bringing up points about Todd Pletcher and going against him. Isn't this the spot to go against him, going on the turf? Because his strength is dirt. His strength is sprints. You're going long on the turf, and he is very susceptible on the turf, and he still takes money.
Absolutely, and this horse is going to probably be the chalk, but 9 to 5, 8 to 5ish. I would be very surprised if this horse is not the favorite on Saturday, and I just cannot bring myself to play a horse like this. Even getting Lasix for the first time, everything, all the stats tell you that this horse should be the horse to beat, but I want to beat this horse, and I'm going to beat this horse. There's no way I can play a horse like that at short odds.
Love it.
So that brings me to the 5, Celestine, who's a very interesting horse. Was some backstory here. Back in March of last year, Rajiv Marag rode this horse after his maiden score. He came back from Dubai straight to Florida to ride this horse that day. He was really high on this horse. The horse ran going away at 8 to 1. I had him that day. I was all over it because I was just all over Twitter, and I'm like, this horse has to win. And looking at his form coming off of that maiden score, it was just the perfect spot. Rajiv going out of his way, instead of going straight to New York, he went right to Gulfstream Park to ride this horse at that point for Bill Kaplan. Now, he's changed barns since then into the Mott barn, and he's shown improvement. The only thing that concerns me is, the horse is definitely going to be on the lead, but I don't think the horse wants to go this trip. This might be a little bit too far. This horse looks like he wants to get, a mile max. I mean, that's kind of pushing it. I don't believe this horse wants to get any further than that, and I'm going to try to bet against him on Saturday. Okay. I think a mile 60 may be a little bit too long. If this was a 7.5 furlong on the turf at Gulfstream, I'd be all in with him. But a little bit longer, I'm going to take a pass. So that ends up, I ended up going with the Chad Brown horse on the outside, who was Tammy the Torpedo, who had a lot of high expectations when she was unveiled back in Saratoga in 2014. Ran into some issues, went top class, ran pretty good actually, beat half the field in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Philly Turf back in 2014 at Santa Anita. Was on the shelf until a year later, almost exactly. Came off the bench and ran a great one. I think the pace scenario in here favors this horse because Chad Brown has another horse to her inside that's going to show a lot of speed, who's light in Paris. This horse, his form back in France, this horse goes straight to the lead. You see it all throughout the form, straight to the lead, straight to the lead, straight to the lead. I think this horse and Celestine might get into a little duel here, and I think that Tammy the Torpedo is just going to eat him up in the lane with no hesitation.
Know who my selection is? The 11, Tammy the Torpedo. So I read the race pretty similar, Barry. I think the 11 is going to be a little bit closer than what Timeform US has here. I think you're spot on with the 5 and the 7. I also think the 9 is going to show speed. And if you got to go back to this horse. Look how good this horse looked a year off the layoff at Belmont in October. And I understand it's an allowance race. It's not a stakes race, but, I mean, it's Belmont Park in October. I mean, that's a salty group. And a year off the layoff. And could have won by more than 2.5. I mean, it was visually impressive. I mean, I watched the video 3 times a day just because I wanted to watch the video. I mean, it looked that good. And then Chad Brown immediately puts this horse in a Grade 2 stakes race, second off the layoff. Now, that tells you right there, we get the best turf trainer in the country, one of the best in the world, in my opinion, sends that horse straight to a Grade 2 stakes race at Churchill Downs. That tells you how much confidence he had in this horse. And, was just up against it and went into the 6th path, turning for home. But then showed resiliency second off the layoff and came back after going so wide. I think this horse is much the horse to beat, but there's not a chance we get 6-1. But I mean, Chad Brown, Joel Rosario, a horse that looked good in his start off the layoff, has run in Grade 2 stakes companies, got the class, got the connections, got the numbers. We won't get 6-1, but the 11 is going to win the race.
Yeah, I'm with you there. I don't see any scenario actually where the 11 doesn't win this race. I mean, if we get 6-1, I'm going to be dancing in the streets over here in my neighborhood, and my neighbors aren't going to like it, but I'm going to be doing it.
Yeah,
because if you get 6-1, that's a gift on a horse like this.
That is an absolute gift on a horse of that nature. And here's the scary part, Barry. I mean, I think this horse really has the potential of being brilliant in 2016. If this horse runs anywhere near the allowance race from a numbers perspective, it's a winner. And I think this horse can get better because, as we've stated many times on the show, horses, according to the book, are better third off the layoff than they are coming 365 days off since they run a race. This horse hasn't even showed its best yet. 6-1 morning line, I mean, wow. I don't know what else to say.
It's also worth noting that the two losses Tammy the Torpedo had in 2014, both were to Lady Eli, who is a just exceptional animal.
Yeah.
So, you take those two races out, this horse would be probably 9-5 on the morning line.
So think about that, guys. I mean, this horse has won 2 races out of 3 starts, basically. I'm not even counting the 2 races that she run against Lady Eli. I mean, what did I tell you about American Pharaoh? You run in a race to American Pharaoh, even if you run second, you're winning, right? So, I mean, you're running against Lady Eli. You can throw those 2 races out. This horse is a standout, and it's 6-1. I don't know what the morning line odds maker was looking at, but I don't think he was looking at this race.
I don't know. I think this horse would probably be somewhere around second choice,
Probably.
whatever that may be. Because
3-1.
I think they're gonna load. People are gonna load up on Australia. So I mean, I hope that happens that way because I really like Tammy the Torpedo.
Top selection of the Tournament Talk show, Barry. Who is it?
That would be race 11, number 11, Tammy the Torpedo.
I went with race 9, Solemn Tribute. As I mentioned, I think this horse is ready to pop. I think he'll set a good trip, and Julien Leparoux will take this horse to victory. So that does it for the December 18th edition of Tournament Talk on the Tournament Edge. I'm Bobby Shoemaker, and of course that is Barry, the Sniper Spears. And until next week, and as always, good luck.